Today's episode of Variant is brought to you by Domain.com. Today on Variant, I give you the history of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I can't wait to see Batman in his Frank Miller-inspired armor fighting Superman on the big screen. I'm your host, Arris. The Ninja Turtles are one of the most loved and recognizable franchises and or properties in the world, and that's mainly due to how awesome the concept is. I mean, they're turtles that are ninjas. That's amazing. With that said, let's take a look at the Ninja Turtles' history and see why they're so awesome. Let's start with the creation of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The Ninja Turtles were created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, and first appeared in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 1, published by Mirage Studios in 1984 in Dover, New Hampshire. They apparently created the Turtles all because of a humorous sketch drawn by Eastman. They were brainstorming one night, according to Laird. He said, "We got real punchy, and we started drawing to amuse ourselves." As the evening went on, Kevin drew an upward standing turtle with nunchucks strapped to its arms and called it a Ninja Turtle. Peter, aware of a good idea when he saw one, asked why not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, so they used money from a tax refund and a loan from Eastman's uncle. The two of them then self-published a single-issue comic intended to parody four of the early 80s most popular comics: Daredevil, New Mutants, Dave Sim's Cerebus, and Frank Miller's Ronin. And bam, just like that, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were born. Now that's the origin of their creation, but let's take a look at their fictional/comic book origin. The story of the Ninja Turtles starts in Japan in the year 1964 with the pet rat of Hamato Yoshi. The rat would often watch his owner as he practiced ninjutsu and would try to mimic him. Yoshi was the best warrior of the Foot Clan. His only rival was a man named Oroku Nagi, with whom he competed with everything, but mostly for the love of Lady Tang Shen. Both tried to woo her, but from the beginning she only loved Yoshi, because she was probably like, "You're named after a Mario character. That's awesome." One day, Yoshi walked into Shen's home to find her being beaten by Nagi, who demanded that she love him. Extremely pissed by this, Yoshi fought and killed Nagi. Yoshi's shame was great since he killed a member of his own clan. He had only two options: to end his own life and hope for honor in the next, or flee to another country. Yoshi chose the latter and took Shen and his pet rat along with him to immigrate to New York. Back in Japan, Nagi's younger brother, Orokusaki, vowed vengeance against those responsible for the death of his brother. He enrolled in the Foot Clan and over the years became their deadliest warrior. The Foot decided to expand its influence to the rest of the world and chose Saki to lead its American branch. Saki used this opportunity for revenge and set up the Foot in New York and took on the persona of Shredder. He then tracked down Yoshi and Shen and killed them both. Yoshi's pet rat was forced to scavenge the streets for food until one day he saw an accident involving a truck carrying toxic waste. A canister came flying out of the truck and hit a bowl of 4 baby turtles, which was being carried by a young kid. The canister and 4 baby turtles fell into an open manhole. The rat followed them down into the sewer and saw the 4 turtles covered in ooze known as mutagen, which is spilling out of the now broken container. Not knowing exactly why, he gathered them up, getting ooze on himself. He woke the next morning to the shock as the turtles had doubled in size and intellect. The ooze also made the rat larger and more intelligent. The 4 turtles would follow him everywhere except above ground. They all began walking upright, but the rat received a shock one day when one of the turtles actually spoke the word Splinter, and in doing so named the rat. So for those of you wondering why his name is Splinter, you're welcome. Soon all the turtles began to speak, and knowing that the outside world wouldn't understand them, Splinter began training them in the art of ninjutsu, which he had learned from his master Yoshi. Then with an old Renaissance art book he found in a storm drain, he gave them all names: Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael. So for all of you wondering how the turtles got their names, there you go. I do want to mention that the comics were originally black and white, but as you can see from the images I've been using, they later went back and redid the original comics in color. Now let's talk about what really made the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a cultural hit, and that would be the 1980s TV series, when kids' cartoons were mainly made to sell toy lines. For instance, when Playmates Toys was approached about producing a TMNT action figure line, they were cautious of the risk and requested that a television deal be acquired first. So in 1987, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' first cartoon series began. Which is what got me hooked to the Ninja Turtles, as I'm sure it did for so many other people. I had like all the action figures from that first cartoon series. And then when the 3 live action movies came out, my mind was blown and I wanted to be a real life Ninja Turtle. And of course, ever since then, the Turtles have gotten more and more famous with numerous cartoon series, comic book series, a CGI animated movie, and most recently their feature film, which hits theaters this Friday. I also wanted to note, which some of you may have noticed already, that in the original comics, the Turtles all wore red masks, but for the 80s cartoon series, they were each given different colored masks, so viewers could better identify each turtle, and ever since, the colored masks have just stuck. So let's see, thus far I've talked about the Ninja Turtles' creation, their origin, and cartoon series. So now let's talk about the individual turtles and some of the characters in their universe. You have Leonardo, or Leo, my favorite Ninja Turtle. He's a courageous leader and devoted student of Sensei Splinter. Leo wears a blue mask and wields 2 razor-sharp katanas. As the most authoritative of the 4, he often bears the burden of being responsible for his brothers, which commonly leads to conflict with Raphael. Speaking of Raphael, or Raph as they use for short, he's the bull-headed, short-tempered muscle of the group. He wears a red mask and often wishes he was the leader. His weapons are 2 size. Then you have Michelangelo, or Mikey. He's the easygoing and free-spirited one. Michelangelo wears an orange mask and uses nunchucks as his weapons. He's the least mature of the 4 turtles and provides the comic relief. He's also my second favorite turtle because, well, he's hilarious. And lastly, you have Donatello, or Donnie. He's a scientist, inventor, engineer, and all-around genius. Donatello wears a purple mask, and his weapon is the bow staff. He is perhaps the least violent of the turtles, preferring to use his knowledge to solve conflicts, but he will never hesitate to defend his brothers. As for characters outside the actual turtles, you have fan favorite Casey Jones. He's a vigilante who wears a hockey mask to protect his identity. Casey Jones has become one of the turtles' closest allies, as well as a love interest for April O'Neil. Casey first encountered the turtles after having a fight with Raphael. He fights bad guys with an assortment of sporting goods he carries in his golf bag, such as baseball bats, golf clubs, and of course, hockey sticks. And you can't forget April O'Neil. In the comics, she's a former lab assistant to the mad scientist and Ninja Turtle villain Baxter Stockman. April is a human friend to the turtles. She first met the turtles when they saved her from Baxter Stockman's Mouser robots. She goes on many of the turtles' adventures and aids them by doing the work in the public that the turtles cannot. In the 1980s TV series and feature films, April O'Neil was a television news reporter, so that differs a little bit from the comics. Then of course you have Splinter and Shredder, who I talked about earlier, and explain their origins. But speaking of Shredder, who's the main villain for the turtles, let's talk about some of their villains. You have some of the most popular and fan-loved villains like Bebop, Rocksteady, and Krang. Then you have some other good villains like Slash, Baxter Stockman, the Rat King, Purple Dragons, and so on. Now before I wrap up this segment and give you guys some reading recommendations, some people may be saying, I can't believe you didn't mention this character or mention that thing. Well, that's simply because it's impossible to talk about or mention every single thing in the TMNT universe. Everything I did mention, however, is the gist of the Turtles universe. As for reading recommendations, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Color Classics issues 1 through 11, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Color Classics Micro Series issue 1, Raphael, which is the first appearance of Casey Jones, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 1, Change is Constant, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures Volume 1. Those are just a handful to get you started. When you buy a domain name from domain.com, you get the power to influence and control what people find when they search for you online. No domain extension will help you tell your story better like a .com or .net domain name. Domain.com is affordable, reliable, easy to use, and they give you free cookies. They don't give you free cookies. The guys at domain.com gave Variant an awesome offer. Get 15% off domain.com's already affordable domain names and web hosting when you use the coupon code Variant at checkout. So when you think domain names, think domain.com. First up for Wednesday, August 6th, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Annual 1. If you're a fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, definitely check out their comic. I mean, it's where the movie originated from. Now we have Moon Knight issue 6. Keeping it short, if you're interested in Moon Knight, this is an awesome title to read. Next, we have Superman Wonder Woman Annual 1. This issue continues the Superman Doom storyline, which has been crossing over between a bunch of different Superman books. It's definitely an interesting read, as Superman has turned into Doomsday. Here we have Grayson issue 2. Grayson digs deeper into the mysterious organization known as Spiral, and learns more about his new partner, Helena Bertinelli. And finally, we have Detective Comics issue 34. Batman is faced with an unsolvable mystery, a dead friend, and an unknown assailant, and a drug called Icarus. Has the world's greatest detective finally been outmatched? Of course not, but it makes for a good promo. Well, that brings another episode of Variant to a close, but before I go, I want to remind you guys about a giveaway I mentioned 2 weeks ago. You could possibly be one of 15 winners to get a free t-shirt from Jack of All Trades Clothing, and you have until August 6th to enter. Check out the description section of this video for details on how to do so. But until next week, you can like our Variant Facebook page, keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Arris_Quinones, but I will see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics. Break it down. Turtle power. I don't know, every time I sing I have to go like I'm a DJ. But I'm not a DJ. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I got really aggressive while I was singing that, and I don't know why.